Revelation's silence about America isn't an accident. It's a prophetic clue. For 2,000 years, prophecy has named nations: Babylon, Persia, Rome, Israel. But one empire is missing. The most powerful nation in human history simply vanishes. And here's the shocking part. There are 3 prophetic clues that explain why. And by the time we reach the third, you'll understand why every believer must make a choice. And make it soon. Theory 1. America as the eagle's wings. The first theory takes us to one of the strangest verses in Revelation. It speaks of a woman hunted by the dragon, and then rescued by the wings of a great eagle. Could this eagle be America? Turn with me to Revelation 12:14. And to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness. Now, here's where this gets interesting. The woman in this passage represents Israel. She's being hunted by the dragon, Satan himself. But suddenly, she's rescued by the wings of a great eagle. Could this eagle represent America swooping in to save Israel during the tribulation? Or is this something far more supernatural? Think about this timeline. In 1782, America adopted the bald eagle as its national symbol. Was this coincidental? Or was God preparing a symbol that would later have prophetic significance? In 1948, President Truman became the first world leader to recognize Israel as a nation, doing so just 11 minutes after David Ben-Gurion declared independence. For over 75 years since then, America has been Israel's strongest ally. But here's what most people don't understand about the depth of this relationship. America doesn't just support Israel politically. We've woven ourselves into their very survival. We provide over $3.8 billion in military aid annually, more than we give any other nation. We've used our UN Security Council veto power to block anti-Israel resolutions over 80 times. During the 1973 Yom Kippur War, when Israel was hours away from potential destruction, it was American emergency airlift operations that resupplied their military and turned the tide. During the Gulf War, American Patriot missile systems protected Israeli cities from Iraqi Scud attacks. In 2014, during conflict with Gaza, America provided Israel with additional Iron Dome interceptor missiles while they were under fire. Here's the pattern. Every time Israel has faced an existential threat since 1948, American intervention, direct or indirect, has been the decisive factor in their survival. But let's go deeper into the biblical symbolism. The eagle doesn't just appear in Revelation 12. Throughout Scripture, God uses the eagle to represent His own protective power. In Exodus 19:4, God says to Israel, "You have seen what I did to the Egyptians, and how I bore you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself." In Deuteronomy 32:11, Moses describes God's care. "As an eagle stirs up its nest, hovers over its young, spreads abroad its wings, takes them up, carries them on its wings." Isaiah 40:31 promises, "But those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles." The eagle represents divine rescue, supernatural speed, and God's protective power. So when Revelation 12:14 mentions 2 wings of a great eagle rescuing Israel during the tribulation, we have to ask, is this God acting supernaturally, or God working through a nation He's prepared for this exact purpose? Here's where the prophetic timeline becomes fascinating. Revelation 12 describes the woman, Israel, fleeing into the wilderness for a time and times and half a time. verse 14. That's 3.5 years, the exact duration of the Great Tribulation's second half. During this period, the Antichrist will have broken his peace covenant with Israel and will be actively hunting them for extermination. The woman flees to a place prepared by God, where she'll be nourished and protected. Now think about this. What nation today has the military capability to evacuate millions of people across thousands of miles within hours? What nation has the global reach to establish and maintain a safe haven anywhere on Earth? What nation has the technological infrastructure to nourish a population in a remote location? Only America possesses this combination of airlift capacity, global military presence, and logistical capability. The text says, "The woman flies into the wilderness." Interestingly, some biblical scholars believe this wilderness location could be Petra, in modern-day Jordan, the ancient rock city that could shelter millions of people. America already has significant military relationships throughout the Middle East. We have bases, agreements, and operational capability in Jordan and surrounding regions. If America needed to establish and protect a massive refugee operation in the wilderness regions east of Israel, we're the only nation with the resources to accomplish it. But here's what makes this interpretation even more compelling. America has already functioned as Israel's eagle wings multiple times in history. The 1991 Operation Solomon airlifted 14,000 Ethiopian Jews to Israel in 36 hours using American coordinated efforts. The ongoing relationship between American and Israeli intelligence agencies has prevented countless attacks. American diplomatic pressure has repeatedly prevented international coalitions from forming against Israel. What if these historical interventions were rehearsals for the final, greatest rescue operation described in Revelation 12? Notice the text specifically mentions 2 wings of a great eagle. Why 2 wings instead of just the wings of an eagle? What if the 2 wings represent America's partnership with another nation in this end-times rescue operation? Possibly Britain, whose historical role in Israel's restoration parallels America's ongoing protection? Here's where the interpretation becomes crucial for understanding America's prophetic role. If the eagle wings are purely supernatural, God's direct intervention, then America may not be involved in end-times events at all. But if God works through nations as His instruments, as He has throughout history, then America's role as Israel's protector could be our specific prophetic assignment. We might be the eagle that God prepared centuries in advance for this exact moment. Think about it. God used Cyrus of Persia to restore Israel from Babylon, even calling him "my anointed." Isaiah 45:1. God used the Roman Empire to spread the gospel throughout the known world. Could God be using America as His end-times instrument for Israel's protection? But here's what should terrify every American. What if our role as Israel's protector is temporary? What if we're only meant to be the eagle until something else removes us from the picture? Consider this scenario. America successfully evacuates and protects Israel during the first half of the tribulation. But then, through one of the catastrophic events we discussed, economic collapse, nuclear attack, internal division, America itself falls and can no longer provide protection. This would explain America's absence from the latter portions of Revelation. We fulfill our prophetic role as the eagle wings, but then we're removed from the equation, leaving Israel to depend entirely on God's supernatural protection for the remainder of the tribulation. History shows us this pattern of temporary assignment. Britain issued the Balfour Declaration in 1917, committing to establish a Jewish homeland in Palestine. Britain governed the Palestinian Mandate and oversaw early Jewish immigration. But by 1948, Britain was exhausted from World War II and withdrew from Palestine, passing the responsibility to the newly formed United Nations and ultimately to America. What if America's role follows the same pattern? We serve as Israel's protector for a season, fulfill our prophetic assignment as the eagle wings, but then step aside for the final phase of God's plan. If America is indeed the eagle of Revelation 12, this interpretation carries massive implications. First, it means America's current role as Israel's protector isn't just political coincidence. It's prophetic assignment. Every military aid package, every diplomatic intervention, every intelligence-sharing agreement could be preparation for our ultimate mission. Second, it suggests America will still exist and function during at least the early stages of the tribulation. We don't get destroyed or disappear immediately. We play an active role in protecting Israel when the Antichrist breaks his covenant. Third, it implies that America's foreign policy toward Israel isn't just important strategically, it's important prophetically. Because that brings us to the second theory, and this one hits much closer to home. Theory 2. America as Mystery Babylon. What if I told you that when the Apostle John wrote Revelation, he wasn't just seeing random visions? What if he was receiving a detailed profile of a nation that wouldn't exist for another 2,000 years? You're about to discover that America matches every single characteristic of Mystery Babylon with frightening precision. In Revelation 17 and 18, John sees a woman sitting on a scarlet beast. Her name? Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. Notice the word mystery. This isn't the ancient Babylon that fell centuries before. This is a future Babylon, an end-times superpower that would dwarf every empire in history. Let me show you the 7 characteristics John gives us, and prepare yourself for what you're about to see. First, unrivaled military dominance. Did you know that right now, the United States spends more on military than the next 10 nations combined? We have over 800 military installations in 80 countries. Our Navy has more aircraft carriers than the rest of the world combined. We're the only nation in history with the ability to project military force anywhere on Earth within 24 hours. No empire in history, not Rome, not Britain, not anyone, has ever wielded this kind of global military reach. But here's what makes America's military dominance uniquely Babylonian. We don't just have superior force, we use it to impose our values worldwide. Second, global economic control. But military power is just the foundation. What America has accomplished economically is far more sophisticated than any conquest. When American consumers stop buying, Chinese factories shut down. When American markets crash, the entire world feels it within hours. When the Federal Reserve changes interest rates, capital flows worldwide reverse direction. And according to Revelation 18, the merchants of the earth will weep and mourn when Babylon falls, because no one buys their merchandise anymore. That's not describing a nation that conquers and taxes its subjects. That's describing a consumer empire whose appetite drives global production. America imports $2.4 trillion worth of goods annually, while running massive trade deficits. The entire global economy depends on American consumers continuing to buy products made elsewhere. We've created a system where the world works to feed American consumption, and we pay with currency we create digitally. Revelation 18:11 says, "And the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buyeth their merchandise any more." Then it lists the merchandise: gold and silver and precious stones and of pearls and fine linen and purple and silk and scarlet and all, thyine wood, and all manner vessels of ivory, and all manner vessels of most precious wood, of brass and iron and marble and cinnamon and odors and ointments and frankincense and wine and oil and fine flour and wheat and beasts and sheep and horses and chariots and slaves and souls of men. Look at that list. It's not describing what Babylon sells to the world. It's describing what the world sells to Babylon. Luxury goods, raw materials, food products. This perfectly describes America's role in the global economy. We're the world's largest importer of gold and precious metals, luxury goods and fashion, electronics and technology, automobiles, food products from every continent, oil and energy resources, raw materials for manufacturing. Third, cultural intoxication. But economic control is nothing compared to what America has done culturally. Listen to this verse. "For all the nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication." Revelation 18:3. In biblical times, when someone was made drunk with wine, what happened? They became irrational, unstable, unable to think clearly. They abandoned their normal behavior and acted against their own interests. Sound familiar? Nations that maintained their values for thousands of years are abandoning them within a single generation of exposure to American culture. They're becoming intoxicated with American influence and making decisions that destroy their own societies. Fourth, maritime commercial empire. Revelation 18:17-19 focuses specifically on ships, sailors, and sea trade. Every shipmaster, all who travel by ship, sailors, and as many as trade on the sea, stood at a distance and cried out when they saw the smoke of her burning. This isn't describing a landlocked ancient city. This is describing a maritime commercial empire whose destruction affects everyone involved in ocean commerce. America controls the world's sea lanes through our Navy's global presence. We have carrier strike groups in the Atlantic, Pacific, Mediterranean, and Indian Oceans. Our 6th Fleet controls the Mediterranean. Our 7th Fleet dominates the Pacific. Our 5th Fleet secures the Persian Gulf. But here's what's truly prophetic about America's maritime dominance. We don't just control the seas militarily. We control them commercially. American ports handle over $2 trillion worth of trade annually. The Port of Los Angeles and Long Beach together handle over 40% of America's containerized imports. When these ports shut down, as they did during recent labor strikes, global supply chains collapse within days. American shipping companies, American port operators, and American logistics networks facilitate global trade. When the Ever Given blocked the Suez Canal in 2021, American maritime expertise was essential to freeing it and restoring global commerce. The prophecy says that when Babylon burns, the merchants will cry out when they saw the smoke of her burning. In ancient times, you could only see smoke from a city if you were relatively close. But America's coastal cities, New York, Los Angeles, Miami, Seattle, Houston, are visible from international waters. If America suffered simultaneous attacks on our major ports, the smoke of her burning would literally be visible to every shipmaster and all who travel by ship in our coastal waters. And the economic impact would be exactly what Revelation describes. for in 1 hour so great riches is come to naught. Fifth, unprecedented luxury and pride. In the measure that she glorified herself and lived luxuriously, in the same measure give her torment and sorrow. For she says in her heart, I sit as a queen, and am no widow, and will not see sorrow. Revelation 18:7. Americans consume 25% of the world's resources, while representing only 4% of the world's population. We spend more on entertainment annually than most nations' entire GDP. But let me put America's wealth in perspective with some shocking statistics. The average American has more living space than 95% of people who have ever lived. We have more clothes, more electronic devices, more vehicles, and more disposable income than kings and emperors throughout most of history. Americans spend $60 billion annually on pets, more than the entire GDP of most African nations. We spend $35 billion on vitamin supplements, $20 billion on ice cream, and $4 billion on Halloween costumes for our pets. American luxury has reached levels that would have been incomprehensible to previous generations. We have walk-in closets larger than entire homes in most countries. We have garage space for multiple vehicles when most of the world has no vehicle at all. We have basements, attics, and storage units filled with possessions we've forgotten we own. But notice what the prophecy reveals about luxury's ultimate effect. When people have everything they want materially, they stop depending on God spiritually. She says in her heart, I sit as a queen and am no widow, and will not see sorrow. This perfectly captures America's attitude toward itself and the world.